All right, so we're on our way out of town right now, headed out to some state forest land, and we're gonna be scouting a couple of hunting spots for later this fall. We're gonna have some colder weather during the nights that I'm up here. My sleeping bag sleep system, it's not actually rated for this cold of weather, so what we're gonna be doing is building a cold weather shelter. We're also in a little bit of a race for daylight here. It's late October, it's a Friday after work, so the sun is gonna be setting pretty early, right about the time that we get out there. So far I've seen a family of turkeys and a whitetail on the road, so those are all good signs. And I haven't seen any other cars on my way into the forest here. I'm getting pretty close now to where I want to park my car and get out and start hiking, and the sun is getting low over these trees right now, so we've probably got another 30 minutes or so of daylight. So we're gonna get hiking out there and then see if we can build a shelter, find some firewood before it gets too dark to see any of that. It's a little chilly out, but not too cold to put the coat on yet. So hoping this hike warms me up just a little bit. We've got the shotgun loaded up just in case there's any rabbits along the way. So I should probably quiet down now and keep an eye out for animals. The sun is just too low to see now, so we're really trying to make it out here before nightfall. So I'm out here, found a spot to camp, cleared out a little area for a fire. Now I'm gonna start hanging the tarp from a ridge line and building the shelter. Been working on a raised bed now that I've got this ridgeline tarp set up. I want to be off the ground tonight so I get a little extra insulation because the ground will just suck a lot of heat right out of your sleeping bag when it's compressed. Got this beautiful fire going. That's hopefully what's going to be keeping us warm tonight, but unfortunately I am in the middle of a bunch of pine trees and I didn't see any hardwood nearby when I was hiking in because it was already dark when I got here. So we might just be burning pine tonight. It burns a lot faster, so that would mean a lot more stoking the fire, and that is not ideal, but we can make it work. Here you can see the raised bed that I'm working on. This is gonna be where I sleep, so I'm knocking off all the little nubs and twigs from these branches so they don't stab through my sleeping pad. We could probably use one or two more planks at the end, but otherwise this is in pretty good shape. I'm happy with this. There are a few twigs that I missed, so just clean those up real quick. The bed is complete. We've got the tarp up, we've got the fire going. A Looks like it is supper time. On the menu tonight, we've got mac and cheese with chicken. So I'm gonna make the noodles, drain the chicken, put some seasoning on it, and then stir it all together with the cheese sauce. That's gonna be delicious. All right, so first up, to make the shelter a little warmer, I'm gonna put an emergency blanket on the inside of the tarp to reflect the heat down onto me while I'm sleeping. I think I'm actually gonna move that down a little bit. All right, so now I'm gonna put this plastic sheeting over the whole shelter to trap that heat inside. So now what I need to do is stoke that fire so that all the heat starts pumping into my shelter here. Well, I think we can consider that fire stoked, so I'm gonna get ready to crawl into bed. And the worst part about mac and cheese while camping is cleaning the pot. That is a sticky mess. Ah, cracked my spork. It's a good thing I brought a second one of those. Gonna fluff up the down in my sleeping bag. Well, it's definitely warm in here. I think it's like 42, 43 outside right now. And I'm sweating in a t-shirt in this shelter. So that's good news. Worst case scenario, I'll have to get up a few times throughout the night to stoke the fire, but at least I know I'll be warm. This is my view right now from in the shelter, and it is toasty. Good morning. It is about 8 a.m. right now, and got a good night's sleep. Had to wake up probably 2-3 times to stoke the fire, but the first time was around 4 a.m., so I got a good chunk of sleep before that. But that's when it really got down below freezing, and I had to just keep tending that fire. But overall, great night. Looking forward to doing some hunt scouting today, and hopefully trying to get a duck or a rabbit or something to eat tonight. So I've been getting my fires going with this white birch bark, and it's actually one of the reasons I chose this campsite. There's a white birch tree just over the way, and if you peel off a little bit of bark from some of the down and dead branches, they light up just like paper. So it's real easy to get a fire going again from some coals. Now, there were a few things I didn't show you last night. The first was how I set up my shelter, and that's just because
I was trying to get the tarp strung up before it got too dark to really see what I was doing with the knots. So I'll show you that. And then the second is where we are. And I didn't get a good look at this either because it was dark when I hiked in. So I just found a clearing, saw that birch tree, lots of dead and down firewood, and figured this is the spot for tonight. So this is the tarp that I've set up. You can see I've got that plastic sheeting on there with the branches to hold it down. And this is just a simple ridgeline setup. So on the other end there, I've got a bowline knot, feed the line through that, come over to this tree. I've got extra cordage on my ridgeline. And here is the cinch knot that I'm using to keep this line taut. You can just move this down to pick up that slack. And then this is the prusik hitch that I have tied to some little toggles here to keep the tarp up. And then down here, I've got 2 stakes, one at either corner. Overall, a pretty simple setup for a very warm night. Let's talk a little bit about where we are and why. So right now we're in the middle of a pine forest, and I wanted to camp a little further in than this, but we just didn't get there before nightfall last night, which is fine. I spotted this area on satellite and it looked like some good high ground, but the rest of what we're surrounded by is wooded marshes. There's a lot of flowages here, which are the marshy, swampy areas created when rivers and creeks get dammed up. So those are good areas for deer, especially when you're hunting public land. Deer like the transition areas, so we're going to be scouting a few spots that are along those lines between the forest and the marsh. All right, the fire is out, my teeth are brushed, and I just packed a little day pack of stuff we're going to need, so let's go scout some hunting spots. So the campsite I chose is about 3/4 of a mile from where I want to be hunting at. So that's where we're hiking now. It's a good mix right now of woods and marsh. So hopefully we'll see some deer sign along the way, get a sense of where they're bedding down. This trail that I'm on right now has plenty of deer tracks. And it's leading right up to one of the points that I want to scout. So right now I'm at the tree that I'm hoping to hunt from. It's nice and tall. It's got sight lines in every direction over this marsh. So it should be a really good spot if I can find a way up into it. All right, so I'm probably 15 feet up in this tree right now, and this is exactly what we're looking for. Let me show you some of these sight lines that we have from just this high up. You can see pretty far out over this flowage. So that's the spot I'd ideally like to be on opening weekend. But this is public land, so you never know what's going to happen, who's going to be sitting where. So we're going to go scout a few alternate spots. And I'm also going to try to find some open water and just see if there's any ducks or geese around for lunch or dinner. So like I was saying earlier, white-tailed deer are creatures of edge. They like the transition areas between 2 or more habitat types. So right now I'm on the line between marsh and forest, and I'm seeing deer sign everywhere. We've got tracks, some scat, lots and lots of deer trails going through these reeds. Those are all good signs for opening weekend. There are some downsides though to hiking through this edge area where deer like to be. You're either hiking through marsh where your feet are sinking in, it takes a lot more effort to pull them up, or you're going through this kind of thick brush. And that's not fun either. But we're places that a lot of other hunters aren't likely to be, so that's good. Seeing a lot of ice yet in these marshy areas. And it's about 50 degrees out right now. But in the shady areas, you're seeing a lot of ice crystals still on the ground. So it definitely got down below freezing last night. I found this nice set of tire tracks made by the DNR or a logging company or something. You can see them behind me there. And I think I'm just gonna follow them as close as I can to where I need to be. So those tire tracks ran out a little ways back. So I'm back to trekking through this marshy stuff. But I'd like to get back on one of those hunter walking trails like I came in on. So there should be one just around the way up here. That's what I'm going towards. It's about a quarter mile through the brush, the woods, to get back to it. But that should be a lot easier than trekking through this marshy stuff. My boots right now are pretty soaked and just not worth the trek when I could take a quarter mile detour and be back on some nice, somewhat maintained path. Well, I found the path, but I've got good news and bad news. Good news is it looks a lot better maintained than the other one. Bad news is I was pulling out my camera to show it to you, and 2 wood ducks flew up from just on the other side of this berm behind me. And I didn't see them until they were too far up in the air to get a shot off. So we're gonna keep walking down this path here and see if we can make it to a pond, and hopefully there will be some more ducks there. It's gonna be about a mile and a quarter down this path. So not too bad. The alternative was about half a mile continuing through that marshy stuff. I can see the water up ahead, so I'm gonna start sneaking up to see if there's any ducks along the edges. Well, no ducks so far, but it's a beautiful sunny day. I've got a great view here, so I think I'm gonna sit down, make a couple peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and then head over to that pond that's about a quarter mile behind me. I am running a little low on water. I just dried up my Camelback, and I've got a little bit left to get me back to camp. So while we're here at this flowage, I'm gonna fill up one of my Nalgene's and then boil it when we get back to camp. Yeah, you can definitely see some of this orangish brown tint in the water. It's just flowage water, so we'll have to run that through a coffee filter and then boil it when I get back to camp. But that should be no problem, and we've got water now to last us through the end of the trip. And now, while I've got this beautiful view, I think I'm gonna lay down for a little nap before I hike back. I just made it to the second pond, and I see a duck over there. I'm gonna see if I can sneak up, but it's a lot of grass and reeds between me and this duck. So we're gonna see if we can make that happen, but there's definitely one swimming around over there. I think I'm gonna set my backpack down here And just go as light as possible.
I'm actually hearing more ducks quacking now. I'm not sure if they're on this pond or the next one over, but I hear several of them off to my left. 4 more just came in for a landing. You can see them right now. 4 more of them are coming in. Now they're landing on the opposite side of this pond, but maybe they'll swim over. Okay, so I think what I'm gonna do is go back and grab my bag and then come back around and see if I can sneak up on them from the other side, because it looks like they're not moving too much where they're at. There's a mound along the side there, and I'm thinking if I can get down on the other side, should be able to sneak along, and right over there on the back side is where the ducks are now. So I'm gonna run back, grab my bag, and do that. Okay, so here's the situation right now. I'm here on the other side of that berm I was talking about. And if you look in front of me here, it's open water just beyond those reeds. Now those ducks aren't until all the way over by that pine tree in the distance. So I think I'm gonna have to be pretty careful along the edge of this open water if I want to keep concealed. Quick update, I stayed concealed, but I did not stay dry. Well, I snuck up on them, got one shot off as they were flying off, but didn't hit anything. I think they heard me coming. So I'm down one shotgun shell. I'm gonna hike back around to that other pond, see if there's anything there, and if not, I'm gonna make my way back to camp. Well, I think probably the last video I took was right after that failed duck hunt. And then I had a pretty long hike back to the campsite. Got back there, started piling up some firewood, and just kind of started thinking, what do I have left to do out here? It was either saw up a bunch of wood and have another fire and then leave it first light to get back to town, or pack everything up and get back with time to have a pizza and a beer. I did what I came out here to do. I scouted a few hunting spots. I got a shot off at a duck, spent a night in the shelter, proved that it would work in cold weather. So I'm headed back. I'm gonna enjoy the rest of my weekend, and I hope you do too.